Chapter 13. The guardians ran to the river. Others found some torches quickly and went after them. Everyone had a confused look on their face. Kratos came to my side and said, "We need to go. Something is not right." "What do you mean?" I asked. He pulled me away and said, "Esmeralda just left and a newcomer is coming. Haven't you heard that the wizard cannot be killed and always comes back? I think she was lying. She must be the wizard now. She is back in yet another disguise to torment us." He looked worried as he continued. "She singled you out. I think you could be in danger." Amy ran toward the fall, holding her notebook. I turned to Kratos and said, "Let's go see who it is." Kratos was worried, but I insisted that there was nothing to worry about. It wasn't as if the newcomer would attack me the moment we saw each other. He called Eater, and together we headed to the river. Once there, a strange scene unfolded, and I couldn't believe my eyes. The newcomer had not yet landed. Clouds covered the moon, but he was clearly visible, standing tall in his boat, holding the paper with the poem on it. Standing in a boat that everyone was scared of sitting in, his wings spread out behind him, balancing him in the rocking boat effortlessly. His left hand was on the hip, and in his right hand he was holding the poem in front of him. He had a look of confidence and authority. He glanced at everyone waiting for him to reach the land without concern, and was not unnerved as he spotted the waterfall. The Serenus were so shocked to see him that no one went forward to help him with his boat. Even the guardians stood back, uncertain of what they were supposed to do. He jumped out without looking back at his boat and landed slowly on the sand as his wings slowed his fall. The waves carried his boat toward the waterfall, and it smashed into the rocks and broke into pieces. The current carried the shattered fragments to the edge where they fell over. The newcomer didn't even look at it. He stood motionless as he stepped on the land. It was as if he were assessing something in his mind. A slow smile spread across his face, and he gave a single nod. He was happy with whatever he had found. Then he lifted his hand, holding the paper, and waved it in front of us. "Where is the wizard?" He then pointed to the fall and said, "Is that the fall we are supposed to go past?" Everyone was stunned by his words. No one answered. Amy hesitated for a moment. Then she went close, carefully. The newcomer watched her with interest. "Newcomer, I welcome you on behalf of everyone here." "What is here?" he asked. "This is Serenus, the land of peace. We are Seren. You are too. From now on, you will be living here with us. But first—" "I have no such intention," he interrupted her. Amy was stumped. For a moment, she lost her composure and looked at Boris helplessly. Boris nodded to her and went closer. We were all puzzled and impressed by the newcomer's confidence. Boris faced the newcomer. "You need to come with us." "Why and where?" He was uncomfortably straightforward. Boris pointed toward the waterfall. "There is a tree on a small island under the waterfalls. Once you get there, we will answer your questions." I didn't expect the newcomer to agree. I was sure he would want to know why he should go there. But he nodded and said in an amused tone, "Fair enough." Without any effort, he spread his wings and with a powerful thrust, flew high above the ground. We watched him, mouths ajar as he reached the waterfall, hovered above it to study the island, and then dove down with his wings pinned to his body. Everyone ran toward the waterfall. I was sure he would have made a perfect landing on the island. I wished I could get there before he landed. I really wanted to see it with my own eyes. Sure enough, he was standing next to the tree when I reached the edge. Boris asked everyone to stay back. We didn't know anything about the newcomer. It was better to take precautions. He continued down the side of the falls. Amy, Kratos, and 3 guardians followed them. They approached him carefully. It was difficult to see their faces in the moonlight from this far, but I could visualize their uncertain faces. I regretted that I hadn't asked Kratos if I could go with them. They exchanged some words, but the newcomer didn't move toward the tree. Instead, he took a step back. The guardians charged at him and pointed their spears at him, apparently threatening him. It was clear he had refused to go into the tree chamber. Everyone was anxious. I could see that Amy, Kratos, and Boris were talking to him, but there was no change in his stance. Suddenly, one of the guardians moved forward with his spear extended toward him. The newcomer turned toward the guardian and spread his arms in front of him. The guardian stopped where he was and fell down, lying motionless on the ground. Others moved back, afraid to attack him. The The Seren gasped in fear and started moving away from the edge. The newcomer had magic. I broke into a cold sweat. Esmeralda had lied to us. She was the wizard, and as she had left the island, another one had arrived to take her place. I was worried for my friends who were so close to him. Kratos and Boris had covered Amy and were facing the wizard, though it was beyond me what they could do to fight him. But the newcomer didn't advance toward them. He stood there, watching them for some time, and then spread his wings and flew away toward the dark forest. I relaxed a little, breathing deeply now that the wizard had left. I looked around me and was shocked to see that I was standing alone on the ledge. Everyone had run away to the village. I left all caution and ran down. My friends had gathered around the poor guard. I was relieved to know that he was still breathing. Boris shouted orders to the guardians, who helped carry their fellow and climbed up the path as quickly as possible. Amy left with them as the guardian needed help immediately. He was taken to the tree circle. I followed Kratos and Boris back to the village. I was aching to know what had happened. The strained faces of my friends worried me. On my inquiry, Boris responded, "We are in trouble. Let's go inform the elders." The news had traveled fast. We didn't see anyone except the guardians on our way back, who stood alert and tense. The Seren were scared and sought the safety of their homes. A deadly silence held the village in its cruel clutches. My company was equally tense. No one said anything till we arrived at the healer's home. The elders were already there. It had become a permanent meeting place during desperate times. We had to wait for Amy to arrive. When she informed us that the guardian would live, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Boris briefed the elders, and we listened to him in silence. He told us what had happened on the island under the fall. "The newcomer refused to go in. We tried our best to persuade him, but he wouldn't listen." Amy continued, "I believe that he could somehow sense the tree was magical. When the guardian threatened to attack him, he used magic. It was not a simple spell. The wizard had thought it out in a fraction of a moment. He didn't intend to kill. If he had, the guardian would have had no chance." She looked at us with horror in her eyes. "He is nothing like the wizards we have faced before. He is extremely powerful. His mind is sharp and calculating. You saw how he had already decided what he would do. Catch the wizard and go past the falls. People take a lifetime to arrive at such conclusions. He knew he could fly. He knew we couldn't hurt him. He knows his powers. That makes him extremely dangerous." Alev put her head in her hands. I was surprised to see her like that. Despite her years, she had always been composed and in control. Jinian went and sat next to her. He addressed her gently. "Alev, don't let him take your courage away. The Seren rely on your strength. It would break their spirit if they saw you like this." Alev slowly raised her head, nodded at him, and pulled herself together. "You are right, Jinian. This is not the time to lose ourselves. Amy, what do you—" An urgent knock at the door stopped her in mid-sentence. Boris opened the door and let in a guardian. He looked pretty unnerved. "What happened, Ilan?" Boris inquired. "The newcomer. He's dangerous. I believe he is the wizard. I don't know how to explain it. I have just been to the river where he landed. I was supposed to patrol that area, and I saw something there." He shuddered as he tried to explain. "What did you see, Ilan? Tell us," Alev said, agitated. Ilan looked at us in fear. "I saw a small area on the riverbank that is shaped like a footprint. I believe it is where the newcomer put his first step on the land. The grass in that place is badly burned." The room went silent. We looked at each other helplessly. None of us had a clue what we were going to do. Finally, Alev said, "Boris, place your guardians everywhere around the village and the tree circle. We must protect Serenus." Then she turned to Kratos. "Take no name with you. Tell everyone to stay inside. No one is allowed to leave their houses." She asked Amy to stay behind while some guardians accompanied the elders to the safety of their homes. Kratos and I got up and left quickly. Misa and Fabio were waiting outside with Eder. Kratos briefed them about Alev's orders. Boris and Ilan went to the guardians as we left for the village. Everyone kept looking around cautiously. The wizard was unpredictable and dangerous. The sounds of the night added to the anxious atmosphere. We went from door to door, advising Seren to stay inside no matter what. Everyone was on edge and wanted to know how we would deal with the new wizard. We had no words to console them. The uncertainty fueled their fears. By the time we left the last home, we were exhausted. Now that we were close to my house, I invited everyone to rest for a while. They nodded in agreement, and we moved forward in silence. I felt safer sitting in front of the roaring fire in my fireplace, surrounded by my friends. But I knew it was not permanent. No one was safe anymore. Nothing was certain. Defeating Esmeralda had given everyone confidence that we were not helpless after all. We had captured her and sent her into the dark. But the coming of a new wizard had shattered it completely. My mind kept bringing back the image of the guardian lying motionless on the ground. I felt entirely helpless. When I couldn't take it anymore, I voiced my fears to my friends. What will we do now? He is too powerful, and we can't do anything. Kratos rushed to my side and held my hands firmly. We will stop him. Together, we will find a way. Don't lose yourself to this fear, my friend. We are here with you. Don't give up. He looked at others and spoke firmly. Listen to me, all of you. I do not allow anyone to give up. Don't waste your energy on being afraid and worried. Use it for thinking of ways we could deal with him. We are here to give courage to our fellows, not break their spirit. Look up, Fabio. Pull yourself together. His words made me feel better. He had scolded us like an elder. It felt good. I felt loved. So did the others. We sat up and gathered our nerves. That's more like it. Now, let's go back and see what Amy and Alev have been thinking. Kratos stood up and patted my shoulder. I nodded and got up. We left home with renewed spirits. The walk back to the healer's house was not scary anymore. Amy and Alev were sitting silently in the healer's house. They had been discussing the newcomer, but it seemed that we couldn't get much information about him from our short encounter. Still, Alev wanted us to discuss it once again. She asked Amy to tell us what she thought about the new wizard.
Well, we know that the newcomer has magic unlike any we have seen before. He's a quick learner. He has already learned how to fly and use his magical powers. He knows he is more powerful and stronger than all of us. We gave that away ourselves.
She shook her head, expressing her disapproval.
We acted without thinking. How timid we must have seemed when we let him see how impressed we were by his abilities.
Everyone was embarrassed by her words, but she was right. Amy continued,
Never in the known history has a newcomer arrived here at night. I have no idea what it means. Shall we be worried about it, or is it just an unusual but perfectly normal arrival? But then there is Ilan's information about what he witnessed at the riverbank. I can't say anything about it without studying the area. There is so little that we know, and what we do know is enough to scare us. Still, there is something that gives me hope.
She paused. I wondered what it could be. Everyone watched, curious. Alev leaned forward in her chair to listen to what Amy had to say.
The new wizard is focused on going past the falls. It is possible that he won't disturb us and leave soon.
Amy's words felt like fresh air in the suffocating atmosphere of hopelessness and depression. Everyone sat up with their faces lit. She could be right. The new wizard might not be as troublesome and dangerous as we thought. Something nudged me at the back of my mind. I tried to figure out what was bothering me. The newcomer's words rang in my mind, and I realized we were wrong, or we might be. I cleared my throat and repeated his words loudly. Where is the wizard? Everyone turned toward me, watching me in surprised confusion. Where is the wizard? Those were the words of the newcomer when he arrived. If he is the new wizard, why did he ask that? He's not afraid of us, so he had no reason to pretend he wasn't the new wizard. On the contrary, I believe if he was the one, he would have said that without any fear or care. Eder nodded. You are right. We assumed that he was the new wizard just because he had magic. No doubt, he is a wizard, but we can't be sure if he came to replace Esmeralda.
That brings us back to an Esmeralda situation. We have another powerful wizard who wants to go past the falls. What we don't know is if he would simply leave or cause trouble.
Amy paused. Her voice reflected her worry when she continued, I hope he doesn't become greedy. How would we stop him if he came after the vials? Alev tried to comfort everyone and said, Don't forget the black light bows. They helped us deal with Esmeralda. And what about the light trees? It's not like our hands are empty. Boris interjected, I think we should go after him with the blacklight bows and be done with this uncertainty. Why wait for him to attack? Even if he is not the wizard we have to capture, we know he is dangerous. I say we should go for it.
Alev shook her head forcefully. No, Boris, we don't have enough light for bows, and I don't think it is wise to invite trouble. We have already mishandled the first encounter with the newcomer. I don't want anyone to go after him without bringing it to our knowledge.
Kratos said, Alev is right. Serenus will protect itself if need be. We should wait and see what this new wizard is up to. If he leaves without causing trouble, great. If not, we will find a way to deal with him as well. Everyone agreed to wait and see. We had missed the better part of the night. Alev asked everyone to rest. She was staying at the healer's home with Amy. Misa and Fabio offered to stay with them. Kratos invited Eder and me to his house. On hearing this, Alev remembered something.
We are forgetting something. Remember Esmere's last words? If the newcomer is the wizard by any chance, this one could be in danger. We don't know what Esmere meant by the wizard's plan about this one. She paused and scolded me. For light's sake, pick a name already.
I bent my head down. She sighed loudly and said,
Boris, put 2 guardians at the lodge. We can't leave him alone at his house. He will stay at the lodge till we find out more.
Kratos and Eder stayed with me at the Serenus lodge. They didn't want to leave me alone. The moment I lay down in bed, I realized how exhausted I was. I fell asleep immediately and woke up to the thunderous voice of Eder. I sat up with a start. Eder was standing next to my bed. Goodness, is this how you sleep? I've been trying to wake you up for ages. Get up now. We need to go check the footprint on the riverbank. His words jolted me out of sleep, and I got up. Eder told me that Amy had visited earlier, and Kratos had gone to the river with her. We had a quick breakfast and left for the river. The village was silent and deserted. No one wandered outside except for the guardians walking around with spears in their hands. We found Kratos and Amy sitting at the riverbank, studying the footprint. I went closer to see. It was exactly as Eilon had described. Amy pulled out some grass using metal tongs. We gasped as we saw it had been charred to the very roots. What happened here, Amy? Kratos wanted to know her views on the matter. Amy replied thoughtfully, I don't know for sure, but I think the new wizard sucked the energy out of the grass when he stepped on it. That's the only explanation for the condition of this grass. I added, the newcomer stopped when he stepped on the ground. I'm sure all of you noticed how he smiled at the time. I think he had drained the life out of the grass without intention, but the very next moment, he realized what had happened. Everyone nodded in agreement. We should visit the tree under the fall as well. If the newcomer had taken energy from the grass, we might find more burnt grass there, as he had used his magic on a guardian there, I suggested. Good thinking, Kratos replied. Let's go and check. My doubts proved to be correct. The grass was burned in some places near the tree on the island. Fortunately, the tree was safe, though one area of burned grass extended right underneath its tresses and into the tree chamber. This matter worried us greatly. Amy's idea seemed to be right. The newcomer had the power to drain the life out of the grass. Once again, we decided to talk to the elders. The elders were anxious to hear what Amy had to say. Jinyan asked, Does it mean that the newcomer can drain the life out of other living things as well? I don't know, but it's not impossible either. We will have to wait and see, Amy replied.